This is the Relentless Podcast. My name is Christine. I'm a small business owner and student of success. I have become obsessed with talking with other entrepreneurs about their strategies, struggles, tactics, and routines. One of the key qualities that all of these individuals have in common, their ability to be relentless. Hello, and welcome to the Relentless Podcast. I am joined today by Marilla of Marilla's Mindful Supplies in Geneva. Hello, Marilla.
Hello, Christine.
How is everything going?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's such a beautiful day to be in Seneca Falls.
Yes. Well, for those who do not know you or your store, can you give us a little history and kind of background, who you are, where you're from, and what's your store all about?
Of course. As you said, my name's Marilla Gonzalez, and I decided to open a low-waste, plastic-free shop back in 2019. So I did all the homework. We figured out how to make it work. We opened our doors, and not even 6 months in, a pandemic hit, and then it was a whole bunch of drama we'll get into later. But
yes, we'll go.
We're still here. And the shop is a place where you can find practical plastic-free alternatives for products you use every day. So whether you want to stop buying deodorant in a plastic tube, or you want to overhaul your whole house and get rid of every piece of plastic you can see, we can meet you where you are and provide something that makes sense for you and your lifestyle. So you can refill products, you can find products without packaging, and it's just ever evolving. And one change at a time, we help people reduce the waste in their lifestyles.
That's amazing. So was this something that's always kind of been on your heart, always a passion of yours? Like, what was the impetus to say, you know what, I think it's time to start a business and kind of bring people along?
Well, I did grow up with a crunchy granola mom and an outdoorsy dad.
Uh-huh.
And so with that, of course, I think anyone in that position grows up with a respect for the environment, and just a desire to keep the nature around them pristine as possible.
Sure.
Especially in this area where we have so much natural beauty. But then as I became an adult, I worked for a long time in the health food industry. And for 10 years, I learned about all these earth-friendly products and sustainable alternatives. But I realized that so many of these products were still packaged in single-use plastic. You could have potatoes grown with all the organic love in your heart, and then they get turned into beautiful little organic potato chips, and they get put into a single-use plastic bag.
Right.
Same thing with pretzels or whatever you think of.
Everything, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when I got to a point where my time at the health food store was over, I was thinking, man, I really wish I could do something like that, but I don't want all of that waste. Mm-hmm. I wish there was a way we could do this differently. So I started researching package-free options and plastic-free options to see if they exist, and finding more and more in that realm. Mm-hmm. And I realized there's a whole store of stuff here, and so much of it was just accessible online. You couldn't find it, you couldn't pick it up, you couldn't look at it. And so my heart was to create a physical place where you could walk in and do your household shopping without all the single-use plastic. The other side of that coin that was a motivation for me was, here in the Finger Lakes, we live very close proximity to a couple of pretty large landfills.
Absolutely.
And through the years, being in the eco world of retail, a lot of our customers have spent a lot of time and energy speaking up and speaking out about their feelings regarding the landfills. But even at some of these events and protests around that, there were still styrofoam cups and plastic signs.
Yeah.
And I just felt that although it's not entirely on the average person, we still do create a lot of waste person by person. And I felt that if I was going to speak out and feel some kind of way about these landfills, it was important to look at what I was creating that was going to the landfill. So
I think it's amazing because, number one, I think so many people just don't think about it. It's just built in our culture and our lifestyle. And, that's kind of one of the issues. I mean, pick an issue and we're really good at pointing out what the problem is.
Of course.
But it's a whole other thing to say, and here's what you can do about it. Because, I mean, across the spectrum, you hear about climate change or any of the issues and you think, okay, but what do I do? I'm just me. I'm from a small town. What impact can I have?
Of course.
And, living between, like you say, the landfills, we actually can see kind of an impact of what collectively we all do. And so it's nice because you just having a place that you can physically go to brings awareness. It gives people something that's tangible that they can do about it.
Yeah, I find it made me feel powerful in looking at what I could control about it, because there's a lot in the climate conversation that you can't control as a single person.
Right.
But one by one, you make a big difference. The micro dictates the macro.
Yep.
And it's kind of how we got here in the first place, is one person by one person by one person. So I thought that it was a great way to bring some power into the conversation and hope into the conversation and
practicality too. Because I mean, if you've never been to her store, you absolutely should. And there you can see some photos on her Instagram as well. Marilla's Mindful Supplies on Instagram.
It's actually even easier. It's just Marilla's Geneva.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
But yeah, so I love that you have the wall of the container so that you can bring in that you've got coffee and herbs and all sorts of goodies in there that people can either bring in their containers, glass mason jars or whatever. And I saw you did a post this morning about you can borrow a container. If you're going through and you're like, shoot, I don't have them in my car, you can just... So, I mean, you really make it very, practical and easy for someone to make little changes and start just stepping toward making some changes in their everyday life.
Yeah, and that's the hope too, because a lot of times, and I'm as guilty as anybody else, you find that you skip it because it's an extra step or you forgot your containers or whatever it is. So we really try to ease those pain points for people and have options so that if you're not the perfect eco person, you can still shop at the store for that one thing that you need or the 10 things that you need. And there's no shame in our game. We want to meet people where they are instead of forcing people to change drastically to meet us.
It's interesting that you say shame, because one of the things when I was preparing for this interview that I thought is all of your messaging that you put out there is so positive and informative, and there doesn't seem to be judgment. And so much of, what we see based around climate or things, being environmentally conscious, it's almost like shame, shaming people into terrible. Like, you should be guilty about this.
Yeah.
Like, this is your fault.
Yes.
And I noticed that that's never in your messaging. It's like, listen, we all have ways that we can still improve. We're with you. Like, we want to meet you where you are, like you said. So is that intentional? Do you guys, kind of try to stay away from any of the fear around it or things like that? Because do you feel like more people will come along with you with positive messaging? Is that intentional?
It's super intentional. I think it is something that we build our entire brand on, is that positivity and loving each other.
Yeah.
It's so much more effective than the fear and the shame and the anxiety that surrounds the climate conversations, because there is so much of that. And there's a lot of scary things happening every day. But I find even myself, I don't respond to that kind of thing well. I mean, we've all seen horrible videos of wildlife suffering. I mean, I scroll as fast as I can.
see fewer posts like this.
Oh,
I hit
it's
that
awful.
all the time because I can't.
And while I respect the people who are fighting in that lane because it's coming from a good place, I know it's coming from a good place, I feel that it's ultimately not that fruitful because human beings don't want to be uncomfortable, and we don't want animals to be uncomfortable, but if it's a matter of just scrolling, we're just gonna scroll. And so
and people don't want to be like, what I think they call it, like green shamed, basically. Like, you're not green enough. It's like, no, like, come in, like, this is your first step. That's amazing. You know what I mean?
Let's celebrate that.
I think that's really exciting, and that's how you reach people. And I just think those small changes will have such a bigger impact in the long run.
I think so too. I always say, if you're somebody who can fit all your garbage for the year in a mason jar, then rock on. Rock on, queen. But if you're also someone who has just switched to a bamboo toothbrush, or you just switched to dental floss, then you stopped contributing to that waste stream, and that's a big deal. All of these little items create their own little mountains of waste every year, and so if you feel like only one thing makes sense for your lifestyle, you're on the team. And so I just feel that creating a space that's safe from the fear and the shame makes people want to be a part of that instead of feeling like, okay, well, I should be a part of this.
But it's
I don't want you to feel like
type thing.
I don't want people to feel like they should do it. I want people to feel like they are helping and a part of something positive. And so that's where our messaging really comes from. So I will, myself, our employees, we're all on the same page about creating a positive and a safe space. And we have these conversations because we have all kinds of people come in, and some of them are really aggressive and really angry and afraid. And that's where they're coming from. And some people don't even think it's that big a deal. And we try to create a dialogue. If there's love and there's welcoming, then it allows those two people to have a conversation and work towards a similar goal. And then they're friends.
Amazing, because that's if I could say the biggest issue that we face just as a society in general right now, it's that we get so hung up on those few things that we may differ on and forget so much that we have in common. So
big time.
So if someone is listening to this and they're like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. Like, I want to get started, but what do I do first? I'm not sure the first step. Do you have like a product line or a suggestion? How could somebody get started at reducing their waste if they come into your store for the first time?
So if you are looking to start small, which is what I always preach, I always tell people, look at your household list. Look at your home. What are you running low on? Are you running out of toothpaste? If you're running out of toothpaste, then let's get you some toothpaste tablets, and you can try those out and see if you like them, and we'll work from there. And so I always tell people to work with what you're running out of.
Okay.
And then one by one, replace it, or at least explore the alternatives. And before you know it, your bathroom routine is plastic free.
Converted,
But I also find that if you do it one at a time like that, it gives you time to adjust to a new routine or a shift in the routine. We do have people that are so great at coming in and just doing an overhaul, and they love it, and that's the way they operate, and that's something that motivates them. But we all know that starting a new habit or changing your routine can be hard. So you want to start with something that's like realistic, and you give yourself time to get used to it, and then you move on to the next thing once you've conquered that and gotten accustomed to it.
That sounds great. I mean, and that could be for anybody that can just start today. Like, you don't have to set out a plan, and you and your staff then are knowledgeable and ready to kind of help people formulate, okay, what are you going to do in the next 6 months or whatever. And
absolutely. And we also are really good about, like, if somebody comes in and they say, man, I've tried shampoo bars and I just don't love them. You don't have to use a shampoo bar.
Right.
Who says you have to use a shampoo bar?
Yeah.
Here's some liquid shampoo. You could try that.
Yeah.
Feeling like there's options and you don't have to smell like patchouli if you don't want to smell like patchouli.
And you don't have to necessarily change everything, but anything that you shift to can help.
For sure.
So now you mentioned in your bio that you guys have faced some challenges since you opened, one of which being COVID, about 6 months in.
Of course, here we all are.
Was there what was that like for you? And is there anything that you did during COVID that changed the direction of your business at all?
It was, looking back on it, it seems like such a seismic moment in our history, but I'm sure every business that was operating through that time, in the moment, it was just one day at a time. I'm sure you guys felt that way too.
An hour at a time.
It was just an hour at a time. Yeah. You're like, okay, this isn't that bad. We can get through this day. It was just like that.
In between freakouts and meltdowns. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we were like a year into it, and you're like, man, I'm a little tired.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, I thought this was 2 weeks.
But for us, I would say the most dramatic change for us was we were a refill shop, and it's very hands-on.
Yes.
So anyone who walks in the door supposedly can just put their grubby little hands into everything and fill things.
Yeah.
And pre-pandemic, that was something that you could find in a lot of health food stores, so people were accustomed to it.
Right.
All of a sudden, we were afraid of touching anything.
Yeah.
So my model of people helping themselves to things had to be completely wiped out.
Yeah.
So it was just myself at the time. We were 4 months in, and I put no self-serve on everything, and I just got every single item myself. So people would come in and I would just help get one thing at a time and scurry around my store. It was very old-fashioned shopkeeper kind of vibes. And in the worst of it, people would just call ahead with their lists. I had lists and lists and lists of orders, and we would just start the day packing order after order after order. And it was so strange because I spent my whole day running around my shop like it was full of people. And I served so many people, passing orders out the door, but I didn't see anybody. Yeah. I'm sure you guys felt that way too.
Yeah.
So I would say probably the self-serve being off the table was the biggest shift that kept me busy. And then knowing when that could be phased back in, because, not many people were thinking about when can the refill shop let people touch scoops again.
Right. I know.
So the legislation wasn't really specific for us, but it was just gauging where our customers were at, where the numbers were at. And we just, one day at a time rallied. Our customers were super duper supportive. I always say that I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic was there was an awareness of small business that happened during that time.
100%.
That was really, really heartwarming. And I would hope that we can continue that. But even now, it's kind of, we've seen that ebb a little bit. But during the pandemic, I'm very thankful that there was such a rally to support small businesses, and we experienced that for sure.
Yeah, that it was amazing. It was amazing to see and to experience at my store as well. And one of the sorry, I lost my train of thought. We're gonna have to cut.
It happens to even podcast stars.
I know, it happens to all of us. Okay, I got it. So one of the things that was interesting was because of everybody rallying around small businesses, we didn't really have a cooling off period at the store. It was like we were almost busier at first. And so I would say probably last year was when things started to get like the hardest for us, whether it be supply chain. We saw drastic increases in pricing. One of our best sellers at our store is our eco candles, and they could not get certain scents in. Same thing with the popcorn. Then they were having major staffing issues. I mean, there were like all of these, side effects from the pandemic that we didn't see right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and plus too, I mean, during the pandemic, it was almost like when we were creating content or doing stuff, people were home. They were just ready to watch it.
Sure.
And the response was immediate. And so all of a sudden it was like we would do a drop and we're like, gosh, that response.
Where is
great.
everybody?
Like, we've lost it. We're closing our doors.
Yeah,
it's done.
It's over.
Then 3 days would go by and it's like, oh, okay. So it's
Here
just
we are.
taking a little longer. So it's been interesting to kind of see how things have shifted as we've gotten back into our quote new normal.
Oh, for sure. I think it's been interesting to see the traffic patterns that are like you were just talking about. Like, I mean, based on our numbers, we are busier too, but it's just people behave a little different. The way they shop is a little bit different. And I think it's because as a society, we've all had to re-familiarize ourselves with having a busy schedule again.
Yeah.
And not being able to just press add to cart when you...
I know. And it was so focused too around home items at the time, because I think when people were stuck in their house, they're like, oh my God, I haven't changed those throw pillows in 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, it was all, our home section was booming, and our clothes section, we had to kind of shift to like sweats, lounge stuff. And now people's purchases, at least what we see in our store, it's more around their daily routines and experiences. They're going out for weddings or going on trips, things that really were halted. And so it's been interesting to kind of shift some of our product lines too. Have you guys experienced that?
We have, and we haven't in one sense. By the way, I love the wedding dresses that you guys
thank you.
Like the wedding guest drops. I love those.
There's nowhere to buy great dresses around here. I always have to go online.
That's why
so
I love you guys.
Thank you.
But that is beside the point. What was interesting for us when we first opened right out of the gate, everybody was really excited about the trendy plastic-free items like your shampoo bars, your plastic-free deodorant, your bamboo toothbrushes, all those things you see online, and no one could ever put their hands on it or try it out. That was just really exciting for everybody. With the pandemic, our plastic-free pantry items, which you mentioned, the coffee, the oatmeal, the spices, that saw such an uptick. Because people were home cooking.
More cooking,
And people were nervous about grocery stores and grocery shopping and who was touching their groceries. And at Marilla's Mindful Supplies at the time, you could call in your order, and myself, in gloves and a mask, would fill your fill your bags and containers.
They could see the whole chain of it.
They could see the whole thing
from you to them.
And even though I was a part of the process, you're putting it right in the container. I haven't even touched your food. So we saw such an awareness for what usually is considered like a boring category in our store. As far as the trends go, we saw such a boost, and we had a lot of customers get in the habit of getting a lot of food products from us, which really helps. I mean, the repeat purchases, candles, things like that, are what keep us all going. And so being able to really firmly establish our food items and our pantry products because of something horrible like a pandemic was really, really great. And now, post-pandemic, we've retained those pantry people, but we do see an uptick in some of the gifty things and the travel items because we can all go outside now. So,
and you just started doing merch, right?
Yes. That was something that we would have never done during the pandemic. It's just a kind of a luxury item that people have been asking for a long time. And so when we opened, we did a thrifted option that was really low cost and very unique. But with our website growing and things like that, we needed something that was more uniform. And so 4 years into the game, I finally found a clothing line that I felt really good about ethically and sustainably and checked all the boxes. So we have this really, really wonderful line of merch for people looking for something new. And it's just durable and cozy and I wish I could
super
give,
cute. I mean,
wish I could
I
give
will
everyone
endorse that 100%.
amazing.
And I mean, it just speaks to the fact that you're not just a grocery store where someone can come. I mean, they actually want to represent your brand, your mission, and everything, you know, that you guys bring to the table. So that's exciting because
It's
not
been
just
fun.
anybody can do merch.
It's been fun.
And you have such incredible online content. Is that a huge part of your business?
Is it a huge part for you, Christine? 'Cause
Some days I
You
feel like
too.
it's the only part of my business.
Oh my God, right? Yes, it is. When we started, I was young 20s, and we were starting out of a bank account that was pretty much empty.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had money to start our business, but I knew I'd have to get creative with the marketing.
Yeah.
And so
No ad budget.
like, no, that's a nice thing to have. I mean, I knew how valuable marketing was. You can't have a business without marketing it.
Right.
But I didn't feel safe spending a hefty amount of money on these ads that I couldn't measure very well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, when we started, before we even started, we started that Instagram page, and I have posted every day for the last 4 years,
Wow.
once or twice a day.
Do you plan it out in advance? Do you kind of just whatever strikes the mood
yes,
that morning?
I'm so organized. I have years. No,
I was gonna say, damn it.
no.
Yeah, today is content day at my store, and I made the plan this morning. So
Oh, Christine, I have sat through since I opened. I think that's probably the biggest surprise about my business, that I have found such a love for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I love it.
I do too.
Ooh, it's so fun.
It's the best.
And I think I grew up in high school thinking that I was going to be a psychologist. And then I went through high school and listened to all my friends' problems. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to be a psychologist. But there's a lot of psychology behind that content.
So much, yeah.
And for me, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. But it's been really, really rewarding to be able to put content out to our customers and figure out what resonates with people
Yeah.
and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like it's a constant self-improvement. And while it is frustrating sometimes, especially when you're working with a company that won't sit down and talk to you on the phone, Instagram, call me.
Yep. Add my name to that list as
Yep,
well.
thank you. It's a fun challenge. I like the challenge of it. So to anyone listening, I would say, and I would guess you would agree, start the social media page and be consistent.
You have to.
It really doesn't matter what you're doing. You should be telling your customers.
Yes.
And social media, it's expensive time-wise.
Yeah.
But if you don't have money, then it's a really, really good option. And I have sat through a couple marketing classes since I opened my business because it's just a never-ending thing to learn about. And in every class, they're like, listen, you need to have evergreen content. You need to plan each month. You need to have your whole month mapped out. And I sit there and go, that is such a good idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Some weeks I have it.
Wonderful for a company that has like a social media department.
Manager, yeah.
But when you're starting out and you're, the marketing, the HR, doing all the things, the buyer,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to get creative. But it's interesting because I feel like on social media, you can see the difference between things that are really curated and things that have been, multiple takes and stuff. It doesn't always resonate as much as
Girl.
pick up the phone and do something spur of the moment. Sometimes
doesn't
those
that
are the
just-
most engaging videos for us. We get the most views, and those are my favorite things to watch. Just like, show me what's going on behind the scenes, like what's going on with her. You know what I mean?
Isn't that the rub, though? You sit down and you plan out this incredible video, and you're like,
Oh,
okay,
and it bombs.
This one, I actually put time into.
300 views? That's it.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
I know. But that's okay because it might provide value to someone.
Right. And there's a lesson in there too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to post something that you know is going to get low views because you have to have that up there to tell something about your business. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what the views are. And
I tell my team that because, it's so easy to get caught up in like, oh, how many views did it get? How many likes? Did people share it? But the truth is, I'm like, you can't focus on that because Instagram does throw real fun changes in the algorithm at us.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's ever changing and you don't know based on when you post, the time of day, there's so much there. But if you just focus on what is valuable for my customer, what message do we want, or am I just going to entertain people today?
Right. And I think that comes down when I'm thinking about content for the store now, 4 years into it. When I first started, I was just talking about products and tips and tricks. And now it's still very similar, but I always think, it's okay to just put something entertaining up because you're building trust with your customer. But one of my tricks that I always do is, and you'll see this on a lot of marketing advice, is to break up your content. If you're gonna make a piece of content, just think, even if it's just mentally, what the destination is for the content. Are you selling a product? Are you building trust with your customer?
Yep.
Are you
the whole educate, inspire, entertain?
Exactly. There's a million different ways to say it, but rotate the education, the entertainment. Yeah. It's going to build trust. It's either going to make a sale or you might be asking for something like an email sign up.
And it doesn't get stale either. Because if you're just constantly seeing, get ready with me videos or something, like some days you're just not in the mood. You want something quick and easy, or other days you're like, oh, a life hack. Like, what do I do? And it's so different things to grasp people's attention, I think is always important.
Yep. And staying authentic to what your mission is as a business, I think helps. For us, it's always those little, it's when we're really focused on letting people know what we do. Those videos do the best no matter what, or those posts do the best no matter what, because it's just...
Well, and you've built this amazing business in Geneva. You have this great online following, and you just announced that there's going to be a second place that you can go to see Marilla.
Right. That's right. The second location is coming in hot. We and I know you guys are in the same boat. We draw a lot of customers from Rochester and Buffalo, and you and I were just talking about this the other day, that we would have people coming for little weekend trips, and we love to see that. But we also, with this uptick in Rochester love and Buffalo love, as a sustainable business, since we started, I thought to myself, man, it would be really nice to have something in that corner of the world so that they didn't have to drive an hour and use an hour of gas, like sustainability wise.
Rather than, for sure.
Yeah. And so it really was a dream from the start to potentially have a second location, because my heart really is in brick and mortar. Some businesses really treat their website as a second location, and someday maybe we'll do that.
Right.
But my heart isn't in that.
Same.
And so I really love to have a physical place.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it was a dream to have a second location. As we operated, we kind of narrowed down where that would be. But for a couple years, there was no way.
Yeah.
There was no way. It was a pipe dream.
Yes.
Because how dare we think about that? We've got a pandemic.
Terrifying. It's terrifying. Because I know we've come close a few times, and that's on the list. But it's and that's one of my questions for you, is because with staff, I've learned to be better about delegating and not micromanaging. And we've gotten some really good systems in place that can kind of run without me being there. So how are you going to do that without, how are both locations going to run without you obviously not being able to be in both at the same time? What does that look like?
Well, since the cloning technology is super slow these days.
Come Elon.
The plan right now, I mean, and the best laid plans sometimes don't go the way you want them to, but right now we will continue to operate the Geneva location. We have a wonderful manager at that shop. It's a small footprint of a shop. And so we have a wonderful manager, Haley Cosgrove, and she's been such a blessing to us. And she'll continue to manage that Geneva flagship location. And we've got some part-time that comes in here in Geneva as well.
Okay.
But for the first 3 to 6 months, I'm going to be present in Rochester.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be switching up that commute. I've been really spoiled for years because I live 2 blocks away from my Geneva store, so I can just walk to it. But I'm just going to make the commute for like 3 to 6 months because, number one, I think it's important. The store is named Marilla's Mindful Supplies. I want to make sure that I'm giving that customer base
Marilla.
the attention and Marilla, and getting to know the folks and making sure that the mission and the morals behind it are clear to that community. And but the plan is, and the hope is, to be able to provide a really great job for someone who's has a passion about sustainability to manage that location. So then I can kind of, do my thing between the 2 places as needed. But my dream is to be able to provide a really, really good opportunity for a few people. We're not going to go crazy. Some shops have the ability to hire, 5, 6 people. I don't think we need that. We haven't in 4 years. So we're pretty conservative about that, but we are really passionate about the jobs that we do create being really, really worth people's time and attention and care. So we are really excited. We've already had some people apply, keep this resume.
I bet you're going to have a lot of interest.
Yeah, I think
kind of join the team. And that's exciting.
I think it'll be fun. And we're really just, to anyone listening, we're really just looking for, the experience in sales and retail and a passion for the planet. But above that, a positivity and a comprehension of where we're coming from as a mindful organization. So we're excited. It'll be interesting. It's going to be wild those first 3 months.
I know. I just can't wait. I'm so excited for you. Now, you mentioned that the store is named Marilla's and you want to give them Marilla, but so you did not start out with that name.
No.
And I think we're legally allowed to talk about this now, correct?
Yeah, we can get into this a little bit. We did not start out as Marilla's Mindful Supplies. When I opened in 2019, we were called the Waste Not Shop, with the whole waste not, want not mentality. So that was going great. We got through our pandemic. Woohoo. And then we got a cease and desist letter.
Oh my gosh.
From California. Opposite coast. And I remember the day I got it, my heart stopped. And I am usually the person who's like, okay, figure it out before you panic. So I send it to my father-in-law, who's actually a professor of law. And I said, perfect. I got a reference. Here we go. Just peek at this. Do I need to worry about this? And he shoots back in 10 minutes. Yeah, we need to. This is serious.
So you can't just brush this one off.
Couldn't just brush it off, which I'm great at doing.
Yeah. This is no biggie, right?
No biggie. It was a biggie.
So you guys had a several month battle?
It was, I would say, I think we got our first cease and desist in April. So we were prepped for having a great year. Yeah. And then we got our cease and desist letter in April. We tried to talk to this company. We tried to come to an understanding about what the confusion was. And to be clear, we weren't named the same thing. It was a different name. It was a different words.
And so potentially you maybe could have fought fought this and, had it drawn out into a lengthy legal battle. But
yeah, so what we did, we spent probably April to August, we spent going back and forth between attorneys and this shop because we thought, okay, maybe we have a hope here to keep our name. Maybe we can work with them and we can come to an agreement. We had a lot of different like little bits of hope along the way. And then by the end of it, it just wasn't looking good. We did have the option to say, we're not changing our name. Let's do this. Let's rumble. Mm-hmm. But you're looking at something that could cost upwards $300,000.
Yeah, and take a lot of your energy and time.
Take years to come to an agreement. And so maybe this shop could do that.
Right.
They were way more wealthy than we were.
But and it had started after you, to my understanding?
To this day, it's murky, but man, I cling to that.
I know.
But we just didn't have the money. But it ultimately, when I was faced with my two choices, either get into a legal battle with another business that we supposedly represented the same thing and the same mission. Mm-hmm. I could do that and fight, just create this infight.
Yeah. Or
I could turn the other cheek and say, you know what? I wish you well. We're gonna go right ahead and change our name. You do your thing and we're gonna do ours, because I felt that's not who we were, and it's not what I wanted to communicate to our customers, and it's not what I wanted to communicate to the world of little low-waist shops that was popping up. Yeah. I think that was one of my frustrations in the start, was like, how could they do this to another shop that is so small and so young?
Yeah.
And clearly they weren't looking at it that way, but that's the way I was looking at it. And it was a very much coming from a place of hurt, and I didn't want to have another small shop see that and be afraid in this space. And so we announced that we were going to change our name in August of that year, but when we announced, I didn't even know what our name was going to be.
Yeah. I remember the lead up to it, and I mean,
and I think people thought I had a plan and knew what it was.
Well, because you handled everything with such grace. I mean, I haven't known you on a personal level, but I've been a fan of your business, and so I was, a spectator of all of this, and just as a business owner, when you put kind of the cliff notes of what was going on your page, I mean, it was gut wrenching. I'm like, that I can't imagine, because I mean, here you open your doors and boom, COVID, boom, potential lawsuit, boom, traffic patterns in Geneva are going to block traffic.
We had massive construction that year.
It was like a masterclass in how to just get knocked down and have to get back up. And you handled it with such grace. And I feel like it just made all of us just root for you guys even more. And it ended up being a great thing for the business after all the bullshit for the rebrand, because the brand feels more personal, and it's just been on a great path since. So
I think so. I mean, I just had to rely so much on, and it sounds cheesy, but just walking by faith.
Yeah.
I couldn't see 3 feet in front of me during that time. And it was horrifying as a steamroller, micromanager, planner, someone who likes to be in control of themselves and their business. It was horrifying. And I'm so grateful for how gracious the community and the customers were, because I know that I was frazzled. But
anyone would be.
But I agree. It coming out of it, I'm so glad that we trusted that and trusted that turn the other cheek advice
Yeah.
because it really was the loving thing to do, and it was the kind thing to do, even though I'm very much a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't indulge that, and that was so frustrating to me also.
Yeah.
But we have really, really been blessed in that being able to go forward, we've seen more growth and more authenticity in our brand because of this. And that is just not something I could have ever understood in the moment.
Right.
So I'm very thankful to my higher power for guiding me through that, because I had no idea.
Just more of that relentless pursuit and saying, like, no matter what happens, we got to figure this out, because there's not a plan B. Like, this is it. So we need to figure this out.
And that's the thing. I mean, it wasn't the store is not a passion project for me.
Right.
It pays our bills.
Your life. Yeah.
And so I think that is a lesson that I took from that. And I would hope that anyone hearing the story takes, if you're a business owner, while you do have to pour yourself into your business and make it personal, you also have to put your personal preferences aside sometimes for the betterment of your business.
Yep.
I would have loved to march in there and fight her about it.
I'm sure.
Personally.
In your mind, I'm sure you had.
I would have loved. I had my outfits picked out. Okay. But for the betterment of my business, I had to put that just that fighting rebel kind of personality aside, and it's important to realize that, okay, for the business to survive, I have to take the back seat, and it's not about me.
Well, you're amazing. I think that was just, like I say, watching from the outside, it was just so
terrible.
I mean, and I hadn't even thought that those things really happen to small businesses.
Me neither.
This was something, that only big companies dealt
it doesn't.
with. And
it doesn't happen.
So, to see you guys persevere and, come out on top, the way that you have is really, really amazing. So
thank you. I also tell people the last pin we'll put in that is, even though it was really, really difficult, I say, listen, it's kind of a feather in our cap for our marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, because they were so mad about us all the way in California, and we just got all the way across there, and we got in so much trouble. But
so that's one of those things that you realize in hindsight, right? When you look back,
marketing is important.
You're like,
it was worth it.
Well, that's amazing. Well, this conversation has been fantastic. I could sit and talk with you for hours, and I would like to end. I like to do a little rapid fire.
Okay.
At the end. So if you could answer these questions in like one word, one sentence, and we'll finish.
I love
it.
it.
What is something that you believed about business when you started that you no longer believe?
The customer's always right.
We could go on that, but
that's a whole other episode.
We'll have you back. If someone approached you that's thinking about starting a business and asked for a single piece of advice, what would it be?
Make sure you market it. Start marketing now.
Yes. What is the biggest lie or myth about entrepreneurship or owning a business?
It's hard to pick one. You get to do whatever you want. You're your own boss.
Yes, you get to pick which 18 hours a day you're showing up.
It must be so nice. You're your own boss.
Yes.
You make your own schedule. Wow.
Of course. What is the best thing about owning a business and being able to call the shots?
I think for me, it's being able to serve people, like being able to help someone in a moment that they need something. And sometimes it's just a product, but sometimes it's a conversation. And I really love getting to know people and being able to pay attention to them and provide service for that person.
Amen. Yes. What's the hardest thing about owning your own business? If you had to pick one.
Oh, God. The computer work. Hate it. Hate it.
Hate it. Well, maybe someday you can
someday
outsource that.
Oh, yeah. I'm counting down the days, man.
So all of the hardships that you guys, the hurdles, everything you face, the sacrifice, the time commitment, the stress, the worry, has it been worth it?
Oh, 100%. I have like 6 more gray hairs than I thought I would at 29, but but it's worth it. They make hair dye for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
When I need it, I can get it.
Well, and everybody wants to follow you, cheer you on this journey. Where's the best place for them to find you?
So we talked a lot about the social media.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. If you're into social media, check us out at Marilla's Geneva. That's our handle. It'll pop up if you do Marilla's Mindful Supplies as well. Mm-hmm. But I don't know about you, Christine, but I'm really, really pushing people to sign up for our email list.
Yes.
It's really the best way to keep in touch with what's going on. And so if you want to sign up for our email list, you can sign up on our Instagram profile. Just click more and you can put your info in, or you can go to our website and a little pop-up will come up and you can sign up for the email list. We do one once a week if I get around to it.
Yeah.
We do it once a week. And when you sign up, you get a nice little discount for your first online order. So
perfect. And then you don't miss stuff because like we said, with that changing algorithm, sometimes people find out about a sale 4 days later and they're like, oh my God.
Right. And just in closing, I personally, in thinking about our mission being Marilla's Mindful Supplies, I've been really, really thinking about how much time I spend on social media, and it's super beneficial for me, but for some people, it's really not. For some people,
Right.
It's a very toxic place. So if you're somebody who's looking to get away from the endless scroll or trying to put
Yes.
boundaries in about social media, email lists are so helpful because you have so much control over that. So we're trying to enable people to be more mindful about their content consumption by offering that.
Yes. Well, that's amazing. Well, you just are making the world a better place, and
You
I enjoy
too.
just spending time with you. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is so nice. I never get to just chat with other business owners. So
I
thank
know
you.
this is my socialization is right here. So
I love it.
Thank you again. And if you can click like and subscribe to the Relentless Podcast, we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching and listening. Be sure to follow us on all the socials: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.